Just Sayin is on the air. He's here, don't worry. And we have a shorter show this time because it was kind of a quiet
week.
Yes. But you know, I've been forgetting to say which meeting we talk about. So we're going to talk about the meeting from October 1st.
Correct. Selectmen's meeting.
Selectmen's meeting. Because if you were to see this later, you might not know which meeting we're talking about. So Jen, thank God, is going to go in on YouTube and the description and put the date in. Good. Because we really should have been saying that. So I just wanted to start with something, because I usually would go in, it's kind of alphabetic, kind of sequence of events. But now there's a whole list of things that have been missed out on or haven't been done. So I got to say I feel sorry for Blythe to walk into all this. Honest to God. Now, so there was in her packet a memo. There's no capital plan for the town that was since the early 2000s.
Correct.
All right. Then we're 15 years past reviewing some of the bylaws, according to Jonathan Smith.
Correct.
20 years past due on reviewing the conflict of interest regs.
Yep.
You had asked if we missed out on a green grant to reside the town. I can't make this stuff up.
Yep.
To reside the town hall for energy conservation, and then there were also probably maybe some grants for the HOD roof.
Right.
How do such things happen?
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
It's unfortunate. Every time we turn around, it's something else that she.
Well, the capital plan was probably, I think, the most significant in that we have. The capital plan identifies $50 million. $50 million worth of capital improvements in this town, and that's huge.
But are they all?
Are they all viable? They're not going to all happen in the next 5 years. But potentially they could. The school is looking for an expansion, which is $20 million. The fire station is a $10 million project. So yes, $30 million of the 50.
20 to expand the Kennedy.
The Freeman Kennedy School. So
that's just crazy, isn't it?
It's a lot of capital.
It's not as if the building itself has to be redone, like out in Newton, where there was a huge amount of, but it was an older building.
Yep. But it just sort of puts some light to the fact that we have got to have a capital plan. So I applaud her for doing it, because we do have to have a capital plan. We do have to know where we're going as we move forward, and we can't wait and then all of a sudden have to do these quick spendings that we do because things have fallen apart.
Christopher, when people interview for a job like that, are they allowed to go into the records and look around and just see what's been done or not?
I don't think so. I think they like anything, they find out what's out in the public view, and obviously that's all they look for.
So you have a new member on the ZBA.
We do.
And I just want to say something. There's this conflating of issues with 40B, because when you say you don't want the 40B, then some people turn around and say, oh, well, you're a snob and this, that, and the other. And it's not really that. It's the sheer number of people that it's so easy to get, for which it's so easy to get approval on these projects. Yeah. But everybody, to shut you up, everybody cries, says, oh, no, I don't think that's, it. But
40Bs are here to stay, and that's my concern. You've got to be very cautious as to what you say about a 40B, especially if you're sitting on the zoning board as an active member. But Josie Kordahi will be our newest member, and she was at her first meeting last evening. So, and I think she found it very interesting. There's a lot going on. You learn a lot of acronyms.
My head was spinning.
Yeah, you learn a lot of acronyms. But,
of all the meetings to go to the first time. I wouldn't want to be on that. I wouldn't want to be on that board. I wouldn't be.
Well, we welcome her, and I think I wish her success. So I think we will see that.
Now, another mystery from the past is sort of like the mysteries of Liberty Lane. Now, will you explain the sequence of events in this business about O'Hare offering to sell the property at 84 Cleveland to the town?
This is the O'Hart. This was the O'Hart issue. O'Hart.
Yes.
You said
what
O'Hare.
did I say?
O'Hare.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
O'Hare Airport. This was when Mr. O'Hart bought 84 Cleveland Street. He bought it and put it under 61A, which is agricultural use, BR zoning laws. Sometime in 2015, he had started to rethink what he wanted to do with that property, and obviously 40B laws has come into play, and I think he thought that obviously as it became, a 40B would be much more advantageous. So he removed it from 61A and put it back into residential status. He paid his back taxes, which was the difference in his taxes that he paid under a farm versus residential.
The farmer was cheaper, wasn't it?
Yes, yes. At that point, the selectmen should have taken a vote as to whether or not they wanted to purchase that property or
Did
not.
he have to offer it to the town?
Yes, because
Oh, really?
Because it was in 61A.
Oh, no
You
kidding.
have to offer for town as first right of
Oh.
refusal.
Oh, really? Okay.
And for some reason, there seemed to be some missing paperwork that a
That was
vote
just-
was never taken. And so it left this property, there was it really created a problem I'm amazed it didn't come up when the property was sold to the current developer, but it obviously has come up now when deeds are starting to be done for the property as it's being sold, units are being sold. And obviously the first one, it came right up that, wait a minute, there was never a vote by the Board of Selectmen, either
that
buying,
was residential property.
or either buying or rejecting the purchase of that property after it came out of 61A. So it's interesting that it's been 3 years.
But they knew who had bought it.
They knew about it, but still the paperwork had not been done and the vote had not been taken. So there was a question. My question to them was, it says you cannot. You have to show there's a method in order to do this, but you can't do it because you see zoning changes. Well, so my question was, is a 40B considered a zoning change? And Ted Cannon, Attorney Cannon, explained why it really wasn't an issue.
It really wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't an issue, but that we still had to vote to remove it for the board to reject any purchase of that property, and it would have been unfair. It would have been unfair to the buyer, the current buyer. It would have been unfair to the developer who bought it from Mr. O'Hart. Is that if we actually decided we wouldn't, you would have thought someone would have checked all
looked
that.
into it.
Yeah, amazing that it actually. It's amazing what paperwork, and that's why we have title searches, and. At the registry in order to avoid these things.
Because I think somebody said, maybe it was Blythe, that did it actually even go in front of the selectmen, and where was the purchase and sale?
Right. There's a real question. Did the board ever even take up the fact that this property could have been bought by the town?
Now tell me about the 120 days. The town has 120 days to decide whether or not to
Correct.
buy. That's quite a while.
Right, it is. Yeah.
So it's supposed to start when there's a change.
When there's a change. So when he took it out when he said, I no longer want to do 61A, I want to go back to residential, the clock starts. Yep.
So, okay.
Yeah, so it was a paperwork conundrum, but amazing that it actually happened, especially on a property like that.
So, because but he refuted the fact that it was a bylaw change.
Yeah.
But were you saying that sets the clock off again?
Well, no, it would have prevented. My question was this even possible? Because if there was a zoning change, the law then doesn't apply. So maybe this property couldn't have been sold the way it was sold. So that's what I want to make sure is
I'm
that
not
there was within that 120 days, one of the restrictions that you can't sell it or change it is that you've had zoning law changes of this property.
From when it was offered.
Correct. And so my concern was, is a 40B considered a zoning law change? And he said,
Well, it would be, wouldn't it?
Well,
agriculture versus a development?
Well, no, it went back to residential, and then from residential, they utilized the 40B laws. So it wasn't a zoning change. It was actually zoning allowed in a residential district if you had the land. So, but it was a very interesting conversation, I thought. Amazing that it happened. That it was actually not caught earlier on.
You think that they didn't want it, or it was just a mistake, or they didn't want to spend the money?
You wonder if they even took it up. Amazing if they didn't. We should be always making sure we know, and I think Blythe said that. We should know what 61A properties we have, and then we should be able to, we know when they're up for sale, or when they're going to be sold or converted, and then we should make sure the paperwork is followed.
So if the town has the money to buy these properties, it keeps another development out of town.
Yeah, the town could have, they've had other properties, the Cranberry Bogs, they rejected, I think, last year. That was up for sale. That's a 61A property up on Park Street.
I didn't know there was a Cranberry Bog in town.
Oh, yeah. And
is it still there? Has it all been torn up?
No, it's still there. Yeah. Jane and Paul's farm. At one point, a couple of years ago, the town was actually going to exercise their right and purchase, and either purchase or not purchase a
Oh,
portion
I
of that land.
remember that. And then,
Yeah,
then
and that was 61A as well.
but then they ended up selling it to somebody who was going to also put some kind of a farm in, didn't they? Or
You know,
some
they
kind
actually
of a,
decided to keep it. They actually decided to keep it, which is great. They sold a little land, but they decided to keep it, which was great. You know, so yeah, no, it's again, it's just checks and balances, following up on the rules, and but I think we've got, the assessor's office under Todd Lindmark has been doing a great job. So I think we're going to see those are the things that are going to change. And Blythe said she's going to definitely make sure we identify our 61A properties. So again, this type of thing doesn't happen. Because you could have really,
I mean,
you
you
could
had to
make
say
this
that.
extremely difficult. I mean, this could have really been a problem. I mean, they would not be able to close on that property, and this would have caused lawsuits, and it would have been a shame, especially for the buyer and for the developer who's trying to develop that property, which affects the community as a whole.
I've lost count of how many times you have had to say this is not going to happen anymore.
That's what we're hoping. We should count.
I mean, you're right to say it, but
Yeah. No, it can't happen. It's what people get very concerned about. Checks and balances.
now I didn't get the name of that fireman that came in that was talking about the new paramedics.
That is Chief Patutra.
Oh, that's
our chief, our current chief, our interim chief.
Oh, he's the. All right,
Yes.
all right.
Yes.
And so there was
Peter Patutra.
now.
There was a grant, a SAFER grant, which allows the state picks up 75% of their salaries for
Really?
the first 2 years, and then it
Oh,
drops
is
off.
that what it was?
Yeah. So and it allows us to have 4 firefighters.
4 per shift.
Correct.
And 4 at all times.
Yep. And then we pick up the difference, as the taxpayers pick up the difference, which it was I think 34,000 was the amount. So it's
Now, what I wrote down was I wrote something like 246,000, and then 65,000 to be applied to other needs. Is that what we would have saved? Do you recall that?
I don't recall what that was, but I know what the cost is to the taxpayer is roughly about $34,000 to have these firefighters on. So it was
It's
actually
not bad.
actually good for 2 years, and
It's a
then
good value.
hopefully through attrition and through other things we'll be able to continue on. But it's good to be able to get it, and it's a great grant to get. So a lot of work done by Chief Bushnell and by Peter Patuchek to make sure we got that.
Okay. Okay. Because. Oh, maybe you know what? I'm getting this mixed up with the green thing that Andy was talking about. Yeah. But I did say here $65,000 to be applied to other needs with a question mark. 34,000 returned to the budget.
Right. Yeah, the 34,000. The town had removed 34,000 out of the fire department's budget in order for these type of personnel.
Oh.
So what they're looking for is a fall town meeting to put that back in.
But they wouldn't have been able to hire 2
No.
EMTs at.
No. We wouldn't have been able to hire him with the 34,000. But by adding the 34,000 back, and the savings we reaped from Chief Bushnell leaving early. Remember, from July 1 to December 1, we really aren't paying a chief's salary. So that savings will be applied to some of this. So it'll work out well.
Now, and this is another thing. Now, so all these different things. So in other words, things just are coming up gradually as people start to talk, and then they see this wasn't done, that wasn't done.
Yeah.
Now, on the energy.
We're not going to let that happen again.
On the energy, excuse me. On the energy. Now, this was another grant of $140,000
Right.
from the federal government.
Yes.
And it's supposed to reduce energy consumption by 20% within 5 years.
We
Seems
will
kind of
receive
ambitious.
it because we'll have reduced energy consumption. The town as a whole will have reduced energy consumption.
Because of these things they're going to do?
Exactly, and have started implementing already. And Andy heads up the energy. Andy Basanowski heads up the Energy Commission. Does a fabulous job. I mean, you think you want your head to spin. Sit with Andy for an hour and have him explain to you all about the grants and energy savings we can do. And
Is he employed by the town?
He is not. He serves for the town, but he's employed by I think it's Weston and Sampson as a consultant, and he still consults with the Corrections Institute here in town.
So he just does it to help the town?
He does. He's been very gracious with his knowledge and experience, and he's as he laughs because he says his fame to claim is the first solar panels in town. Andy was the first one to have them.
Oh.
But he's very knowledgeable in this, and it's invaluable to learn where we can make savings, where we should be looking for savings, and he's extremely good at this. And as he said, the Corrections Institute has done a fabulous job of return on their investment. and energy savings. So
Now, each year you can apply for more, I guess, up to 250,000. That would
Right,
be the cap.
right.
And so he mentioned rebates, free or reduced installations,
yep, light bulbs and things. Yep.
paybacks of varying years. What does
Right.
that mean?
Well, is it if you, similar to like when we did the school roof at H. Olive Day? My concern with that was we put on all this insulation on the outside of the roof, but it's a 30-year payback.
Yes,
So you
yes,
say,
yes.
in 30
Sort of
years.
like a return on investment.
Exactly. So he was referring to, and everything has a different return on investment. Obviously, solar panels have some people like to see a 5 or 10 year, depending on what it is. But most of this is all buildings in town. This is all energy savings for buildings in town. And he was remarking we should have done a better job at the police station, public safety building. We didn't reap all the benefits.
Oh, yeah, I heard him say that.
Yeah.
I missed what exactly, but I saw him say that.
So, but no, he's done a fantastic job, and will continue to. I think hopefully help us with these needs, and he's good at it.
He said turning off the lights
Yeah.
in a building could save 30%. I mean, light bulbs don't use that much electricity. Heating, cooling, that's the difference.
Everything, but even lights. I mean, we have, as you said, we have a lot of lights in town, and street lights. How many lights are on? How long they're on for? As he said, you come into town hall some nights and you see it lit up like a Christmas tree, and no one's there.
I mean, there's no reason for it. I mean,
So
you're right.
it makes a huge difference. Vehicles. I mean, the number of
That was- I
vehicles
was
we
just
have,
gonna say.
which vehicles are no longer energy efficient. So a lot of work to do in that area. This is and I think a lot of people were concerned about that because it's a huge effort up front. But as he said, once you get through the paperwork and once you work on the spreadsheets, it becomes easier year after year. And where he's got the knowledge and willing to share it, we're foolish not to take advantage of it.
Now, when was that town hall built? About 20 years ago? No, less than
what
that.
are we-
15 maybe?
No, it might be 20 years ago. I mean, you have to have the scourge of
'Cause I
North
came
Street.
in-
Yeah, he was on the permanent.
scourge,
The scourge
the
of North
sage.
Street. Oh, the sage. I know, surge of North Street. The sage of North Street, because he actually was on that
dear
committee.
God.
But I don't know. I think it was at least 20 years ago. But But
Because I mean, I came in '95, and I remember being in the old town hall.
yeah.
So
right around the 2000
okay.
probably. Yeah.
So, did it need to be re-sided that soon?
It needed to either be painted or re-sided, and the decision went that the insulation wasn't that good. So they re-insulated from the outside. We're never going to do that again now. Put an insulation on the outside. They put a composite panel on the outside. And again, he had talked about that. We might have, again, we probably should have been looking at energy savings back then, but we can't. We do get benefits from it today, obviously, because we have reduced, hopefully, heating and cooling costs. But again, it's just a lot of things that we do. We have to make sure we're really thinking consciously about the energy savings.
Now, would getting those GPSs, installed in the cars, could that be used for that possibility?
Absolutely,
Could that be
because
considered green?
The new GPSs tell you mileage. They tell you when you need to do service. They can tell you so much information about the vehicle that helps you determine whether or not this vehicle is energy efficient and whether or not we should be replacing it. And there's a lot of schools of thought as to when a vehicle should be replaced. And I think most people say everybody in town has a vehicle here. These vehicles These vehicles all can't be energy efficient. We know they're not. Right. That's why the police don't use them anymore. So we really have to relook at that whole program and decide what we want to do. But the GPSs would be a huge help because they can take so much data because they're plugged right into the computer module of the vehicle. So they provide an enormous amount of data that will help
Are those expensive to put in?
No, they're actually very, very expensive today. I mean, there's programs out there that are extremely cheap for towns and for large scale users, which the town would be. So definitely something we really should be incorporating in all our vehicles.
Now,
and it's a good check. It's a good check on where our vehicles are going.
Oh, absolutely.
Good check on where they're going.
And when the gas.
You got it. So
the tires.
It's a good.
The whole thing.
Yep. It's a good check. Check and balances.
Now, on that capital plan.
Yes.
Blythe didn't see anything since the early 2000s, is what I wrote down. And
Right.
You had mentioned the $50 million that could conceivably be spent. And so I guess the larger departments are going to come into the Board of Selectmen's meetings to sort of plead their. Now, is that going to be booked?
Yes, that's actually, I think the first one is actually DPW is going to come in on the 15th. And they're looking for a new lawnmower. They're looking for a roll-off truck for the dumpsters. So they're looking for close to $350,000 just for those two items. So they will have to justify them.
Maybe I can buttonhole Bob about the logs on the Seekonk and.
This is your opportunity. Tell me,
Seekonk
Bob, if you're
and
listening, get rid of those
King Philip
logs
Trail.
before the 15th, right? Get rid of those logs because Anne Marie's going to be out to get you that night.
Now, you had said something about Todd being able to evaluate the tax implications for the expenditures.
Well, as I said, when we I think one thing people really have to become cognizant of is if we approve, say just for example, if the taxpayers say, yeah, we want to spend $20 million on a new school addition, how's that going to affect our tax rate? So they should, when we do these large-scale capital projects, just like in corporate America, is how is the profits going to change the penny per share we used to refer to it as? What's the penny per share difference when you make these profits? Same thing here. What is the tax rate going to be affected by? How is it going to be affected by $1 per thousand, $1.50 per thousand? And people should know that. And as we all know, as your tax rate creeps up, your values suddenly have to start going the other way.
Of the houses.
Yeah, and it makes us much less a draw for a lot of people. So we got to be very careful. And a lot of people have warned this town about when we get to $20 per thousand.
What's that, 17 now?
We're at 18, I think it's 18.96 or something. So when we get close to that $20 per thousand, it really is concerning to a lot of people.
Well, I don't think, is it that different from Medfield?
Medfield's actually a little less than us. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
How could that be with all the stores and the businesses and it?
Yes, it's interesting. Yeah, we have a very high tax rate. So we got to be really cognizant of that. So I said, people should know what the effects on their tax rate is going to be, and not in whole dollars, but in percentages or in the tax rate itself. That's very expensive. I mean, you think about it.
I mean, it's very disgusting
very
to think
to live in Norfolk.
That the tax rate is higher than Medfield.
Yeah.
I mean, I wanted to go to I couldn't afford Medfield, and I never dreamed that the next town over would be so different culturally. I never. Now the town clerk was it because Blythe mentioned that I have the town clerk here. What does she want? You don't know?
I don't know.
And the Holbrook well, and then something about paper management.
Paper management.
And then a truck.
Yeah.
And a field mower that you'd mentioned.
Yeah.
Now, what is going on with the Rockwood Road thing, the 43 Rockwood Road?
43 Rockwood Road. I think she touched on that, didn't she?
Well, she said it was going to trial, and they were something about defending the town.
It went to Superior Court for summary judgment. It couldn't. The judge ruled on certain items one way, certain items the other way. So it will now go to trial. So the town has to be prepared to defend our bylaws.
And the key issue is that nothing has been in there for 2 years, and therefore.
It lost its grandfathering, and we use the word grandfathering.
Yeah.
It lost its status as a non-conforming use because it's still a non-conforming use, but it lost its ability because it was vacant for 2 years
Wasn't
and
that
a number
cut
of different
and
years.
Isn't that cut and dried? Why is that?
It's pretty cut and dry, but the question is what is considered abandoned or not being used for a period of 2 years. And so that seems to be the crux of the issue here.
But again, I mean, that should be clear, easy to pin down.
You would think so.
When a business opened, when it closed.
It's not as easy as you think. Yeah. So the town has to be prepared to defend our bylaws with regard to a non-conforming use and
a trial.
Yeah.
An actual trial.
Yeah. Well, we'll see where it goes, but it's scheduled. There's a pretrial hearing sometime in October.
Now, are you all going to go to that, or?
No, we don't go to that. That's handled by the attorneys. But yeah, it's interesting. Again, it's our bylaws. We have to. It's actually a state bylaw, and the town obviously adopted it, and so we have to defend it because it does. If we've closed down businesses.
Now,
if you remember the flower shop on 115, that was a business that was shut down by the building commissioner because it wasn't operational for a 2-year period, and he required them to close that down. So we got to have uniformity as well.
So now the town is a defendant, and the one bringing the lawsuit is a citizen town.
No. The one who brought this to trial was LaRusso, who owns the property, and so the town.
But there was somebody in town involved in it.
There was the Simpsons had also not really became a party to the lawsuit. All they were doing is they appealed because they're in a butter, and they appealed the building commissioner's decision that this business could be sold. And but the town really is the one who has to defend the bylaw. It's really the town's responsibility to defend our bylaws.
And LaRusso wants what now?
He wants to be able to sell that building as a separate standalone building, and it is not. It's considered an accessory building. Now that's what it is. It's an accessory
And the
building.
house that was behind there is gone.
Yeah. And the
We
clock
have a
is-
mutual
and
friend
the
that
clock
used to live
is-
in that house.
Really? Who's that?
I want to be
I know there was a cool Alfa Romeo out in the yard for
There
a
was a
long
what?
Cool Alfa Romeo out in the yard for
What
a
is
long
that?
time. It's a car. There was an old Alfa Romeo out there.
Oh! Well, I don't think these people had that. Now, listen, what's the story on Quaglieri? Now, why is he selling 194?
He's not selling it.
He's not. Well, so
No.
it's going to be taken away. It's going to be gone. Eventually.
He's actually before the zoning board for 40B to build an apartment building there. So once he receives approval, if he does receive approval for the 40B, and depending on when he
Oh, I'm
develops
sorry,
it,
okay.
that building will be torn down.
Oh,
and
right.
New buildings will be built.
Oh, all right.
So we'll lose our favorite breakfast place, Bork's.
I don't like it.
I know. Well,
How was the?
well,
what
aren't you
about-
snobbish? Yeah. Must
Not
have
about
come from, it must have come from Boston.
How was the issue? Was the issue ever resolved between Quaglieri and Bullock? The whole business about the because you said he lost a tenant.
Well, he lost the bank. That was one of the issues a long time ago. Was he lost the bank when they moved? So
But that wasn't because of the business with
no,
Bullock
the
going
40B.
in there.
No, that wasn't.
No, I don't mean the 40B. I mean when Bullock went in to look at those.
There's still that's still an ongoing issue that they're trying to resolve. Still being resolved.
Now, this is just a crazy thing that I thought I heard. We've only got a minute. When Mr. Hawkins got up to praise the NCTV, did I hear him say that he saw something that made him want to cry in his bathroom or bathrobe? Did you hear that?
I did hear that, and I'll plead the fifth.
Oh.
I think he was basically stating that the shows on NCTV are fantastic, and that he was supporting NCTV, as we all do.
Driven to
great.
tears. All right,
I think
we're gonna have to close. We used up all our time. Thank you for watching. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. We had an abbreviated episode today. Chris Weeder, I am Marie Battistone. Thank you for watching. This is NCTV. Just saying.
Good night.